All right, welcome to Session 1, Module 3, the program overview for True Leadership Foundations. Here's what we're going to cover is really give you a journey overview. In other words, give you a sense of the arc of what you can expect over this program. I want to review the program elements and the program structure. So my hope is with this, a more fundamental knowledge of how this program is actually structured and the elements within it, so that you have a better understanding of how to truly utilize and participate in this program. So let's begin with the journey overview. And to start, I want to really introduce you to some basic concepts which will hopefully help create a deeper understanding of this larger journey which we are going on together. I want to start with this metaphor of the gas and the brake. So imagine being in a vehicle, a car, truck, whatever it is, and you're rolling down the road. And you've got your foot on the gas, so you're moving forward, but you've also got your foot on the brake as well. Now there's two different ways that you could go faster down the road. One is to simply, put your foot on the gas. But the other is to actually take your foot off of the brake. Putting your pressure on the gas is certainly going to get you to go faster. There's no doubt about it. But you will be working against the pressure or the force or the momentum of the energy that you're giving to the brake. So this work and the True Leadership Foundations within this metaphor is really about learning how to take your foot off of the brake. So what do we mean by gas and brake? Well, here's just some basic examples, right? Your gas is capacity, confidence, presence, it's happiness, it's vision, it's a feeling of purpose, it's whatever you're feeling, talented in, it's that, grit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? All of those really powerful, lovely things that you want more of in your life, right? So adding to the gas is like trying to cultivate or add more of that. And then there's the brake side, right? Which is oftentimes what folks are wanting to get away from, right? What people are wanting to avoid, which is the things like self-judgment, self-criticism, self-doubt. It's the reactivity, the emotional reactivity. It can be imposter syndrome, can be perfectionism, fear of conflict, fear of failure, fear, right? So in this work, we focus letting off of the brake, and in so doing, or actually not doing, because it's actually not something that you're doing, it's like you're ceasing being on the brake, right? So it's not actually something that you're doing. Discovering that you don't actually need effort to be applied to the gas. And that's what's so different about this approach, because there's plenty of ways that you could go about attempting to grow confidence, grow capacity, grow presence, trying to do all of those things. But if you do it on top of the energy, the effort that's being applied to the brake, then there's always going to be effort included in that, because you're going to be working against something that's holding you back. So effort is really only necessary when you're working against the brake. So the reason that we're focusing on letting off of the brake is because that's when that natural essence, that natural growth, that natural development, you could call it flow, can really begin to flourish, can really begin to flow. So in working with the brake and in letting off the brake, we want to identify what is called your heart of the matter. And your heart of the matter, you could call it like the most important, it's the leverage point within your braking system. Yeah. So your heart of the matter is the one place in your inner world where even a slight change or a slight letting off the brake would make a really big difference in everything. So that's going to be the first part of this journey. It's in the next session. It's identifying that heart of the matter. And then we're going to, once you identify that heart of the matter, it's really about avoiding what I call the big trap. Now, the big trap is what traditional leadership, personal development courses, approaches really get caught in, and it's this attempt to avoid, overcome, or solve your problems before actually growing from them. And while that is possible to do, the challenge is that if you don't grow from what you're experiencing as a problem or a challenge, then the next time that a similar problem or challenge rolls around, you're still going to experience it as a problem or as a challenge. So what we're holding here is that anything that you experience as a problem is not actually a sign to you that something needs to be solved or overcome or changed in any way. That your experience of something as a problem is a sign, a signal to you that you have reached the edge of your capacity to be with whatever's happening in your world. Now, you know that this is possible because things that you used to experience as problems, you no longer do. You can also know that this is possible is because things that you experience as a problem, other people don't experience as a problem. Or vice versa, things that you don't experience as a problem, other people don't experience as a problem. So the experience of a problem is a completely subjective thing, which is to say that they don't actually exist except for within the mind, the construct of the person that is perceiving something as a problem. So the opportunity within this is to utilize whatever challenge, struggle, inner limitation that you're coming up against. And this is what this is all about, learning how to engage with that in a way that it actually becomes your catalyst for growing your capacity. And in so doing, that thing that you have experienced as a problem ceases to actually be a problem and instead is just another moment in which you're able to meet the reality of your experience with increased capacity, confidence, and presence. So that's the orientation towards which we approach the heart of the matter. In avoiding the big trap, you are choosing to own your development. And owning your development is really taking full accountability, ownership, and responsibility and applying and practicing the deep inner work to your heart of the matter so that you fundamentally grow and keep growing in the ways that matter most. Because it really goes in that order. So accountability, the way that I define it, is the ability to account for your own contribution to whatever it is that you are experiencing. So the ability to account for something is really based in awareness, right? And because you are always contributing to your own experience, there's always something for you to be aware of. And if you can't identify what that is, then your catalyst for the inner work is growing your self-awareness. And it's the first necessary step. In other words, being able to see what your contribution to your experience is, how you're contributing to your own experience in ways that you might not be able to see is fundamental. And cultivating that awareness is going to increasingly make it more and more possible for you to see what that contribution is. As your awareness expands, your ability to account for your contribution to whatever it is that you're experiencing will expand as well. Now, once you are aware of what your contribution is, the second step is ownership. And that is the capacity to fully accept, without judgment, the part of you making that contribution. The without judgment part is incredibly important because can be fairly, easy sometimes to say, oh, well, this is my contribution and I don't like that about myself, or I shouldn't be doing that. But it's this capacity to be aware and then to truly own and fully accept this part with self-love, with self-compassion, that actually harnesses all of the power that would have been given away if we were to reject that part through judgment, through criticism, through blame in some way. So cultivating that self-acceptance, that self-compassion, that self-love is what will make it possible for you to actually harness that inner authority. So self-compassion, self-love isn't some fluffy, light thing that you're offering. It's really this incredibly powerful force that helps you to reclaim and to regain the energy that you're losing, right, through the rejection of parts of yourself. So that's 1 and 2, accountability and ownership. And once you've gotten to that, truly owned that aspect, right, that part of you that's contributing, then you can begin to think about responsibility. And that is the ability to respond appropriately with capacity, confidence, and presence, right? So most times and so often what people want to do when a reaction comes up is they want to move right to what to do. And if they move right to the responsibility, right, the ability to respond without stopping first at accountability and ownership, they won't actually respond in presence. They'll react unconsciously. So that's the importance of really slowing down to get to that place of awareness and self-compassion. And then from that place, it's that ability to identify what is in my will or my power to do from this place where I've reclaimed this ownership, this power within me, this inner authority. What is in my will to do, and can I actually do it? Right? So cultivating this self-will, which is that ability to identify what's in my power to do and actually doing it, makes it possible to respond appropriately from that place of presence, no matter what your experience is. So ultimately what we're doing is learning how to slow down into these steps of accountability, ownership, and responsibility so that we drop deeper into presence and access what is true so that we are able to appropriately respond without leaving into a reactive place, ultimately leaving the present moment. So it's quite powerful in that way. And you could say that cultivating awareness, compassion, and will is really the foundational work of true leadership. Doing the work is deeply transformational. At least I can only speak from my experience. It is, and for other folks that I've worked with, is deeply transformational. But knowing how to do the work is wisdom. And this approach, true leadership, is both. So I want to review now with you the program elements, that is, all of the different elements that make up this program. So within the online course of which you're participating right now, you have sessions, of which there are 9. You have modules within each session, which are the video sessions that you log on to watch. Within those modules, you're going to have access to exercises. There's going to be the introduction of practices, and the resources is going to be a section where either it will be the printout of the questionnaires or the actual exercises to do, or maybe links to other pertinent information. Of course, then we also have the group calls, which are weekly calls, which we'll go over more, which you're going to participate, have direct access not only to me, but to other people truly engaged in this work, and the group engagement, which we'll talk about more as well. So here is what you can expect from each of the sessions as they pertain to the stages of accountability, ownership, and responsibility. As you can see, the first 3 sessions are introduction, the heart of the matter, and counter tactics. And those all have to do with accountability, that is awareness. Then there's the next 3 modules of natural awareness, inner motive, and the deep story and core delusion, which is really focused around that ownership, that self-compassion aspect. And then for responsibility, you have the final 3 sessions, which are called the threshold, beyond the threshold, and integration through a whole new way of being. So I realize that a lot of these words may make no sense to you. That's okay. I am trying to keep a little bit of mystery as we move along in here, but hopefully it's making some sort of sense to you. All right. So I want to review here with you the program structure. And if you remember from the last module, I talked about the different types of leadership development. There's informational, reformational, transformational, and true leadership development. And if you remember, each one of those types of leadership development sort of transcended and included the prior, right? So they're all really important and they all build off of each other. And so the structure of this program includes all of those elements. You can think of the information, right, is like the addition of knowledge. And you're thinking the form here is like the form of consciousness, right? So information is adding knowledge into a pre-existing form. Reformation would be restructuring the meaning of that form. You could say it's like, instead of just putting something in the first level of a house, maybe it's like building the second level of a house so you could look out the window in a new way. So it's still building on the same form, but a different way to see through the form that you're experiencing. Transformation could be seen not as simply restructuring on top of or differently the current form that you have, but actually a disassembly of the form. So that's that transformation. You're actually moving from one kind of formation to another kind of formation through a disassembly of it. And you're doing that through your individual lived direct experience. Now, in this program, you also are going to have conformation, not to think of like conforming, but conformation is with the group work coming together with others. So it's actually an assemblance into a whole via collective experience with others engaged in this work. So just to hopefully land this a little bit more in a way that's less conceptual, the information is offered through the modules. Right? So like what I'm offering to you right now is informative. It's just information that sort of goes into, right? And the focus there is intellectual knowledge. It's working truly at the level of concept in the mind. The reformational approach is really done through exercises. And that's really where you're doing the deeper sort of inner inquiry work. And its focus is on your subjective meaning making. So a lot of the transformational work out there starts and stops here. They're really working at the level of mindset, and a mindset change or shift, I would say, is not a transformation; it's a reformation, because you can't simply layer new beliefs or new thoughts on tops of old ones and call it a transformation. Like I said, a transformation is that disassembling of the current form of your understanding. So that's really what the practices are for. The transformation really comes from the practices. And the focus is on embodied wisdom. That wisdom is not just a conceptual understanding of something. It's not just being able to talk about something. It's actually having lived and experienced something directly, right? So that embodied piece is something we'll be working with a lot, because all of it is really experiencing in the present moment through your body and not just conceptually in the mind. And the confirmation element, of course, is happening within the group calls, and that is this collective, the focus is this really collective experience that we're going to have with other people. This connective experience that we have in practicing showing up and being a part of something that's bigger than just our individual, immediate, direct experience with ourselves, right? But with others. So it's incredibly powerful. As I said, we're going to touch on these elements in more depth in as we start to get ready for these things. So, given all of these different elements within the program structure, I just want to say and to recommend to really prioritize immediate direct experience, which is to say, prioritize practices and group calls. If you were to prioritize the modules, the information that's offered, and the exercises, the worksheets, and sort of inner inquiry that's happened, but you weren't actually doing the practices and the group calls, I would say that you would definitely not be getting the benefit out of this program that is possible. On the other hand, it would be possible for you to get the full benefit of this program without watching any of the modules or doing any of the exercises if you were to truly, fully commit yourself to the practices and show up at the group calls. Now, saying that, I'm not saying not to do the modules and the exercises, but rather that, I feel I'm just trying to say the extent of the importance for the practice in the group calls. Of course, the modules and the exercises are going to be deeply helpful in this process. And again, we'll connect on these more as we continue to move along here. So that is the conclusion of Module 3. Continue on to Module 4, where we'll be talking about getting ready to really dive into the True Leadership Foundations experience. We'll see you there.